Okay, so second subject of the week is IT 1120, which is Introduction to Programming. Let me type that properly. Introduction to Programming. So, these past 2 weeks, what did I learn? Well, first things first, we learned that when it comes to programming, there are 6 stages. There's the analyzing the problem, then you design a thing, then you design a program, you then implement it, and then you test it, and then you launch it, and then finally you have to maintain it. Right now we are at the design phase. Programming is mainly designing the solution. So first off, we usually use pseudocode, which is a code of sorts that is using the English language. So pseudocode usually has begin and end. Then you have things like input, you have output, or you can pick display, any of them. Remember, this is simply to get an idea of how we are going to code the problem, code the solution to the problem. So now there's also prompt, there's so many things. But the main language which we're going to be studying is Java. Java doesn't have begin and end. It has something known as class. So we always begin public, class, and driver. Now this driver is always the file name. The class should always be equal to the file name. Then we put curly brackets. Then we put public, static, main, void. And then after this, we can now type all our code inside of this. This is how we program in using Java. So every programming language has things known as variables. I'm going to make some space down here, right? Known as variables. Variables are used to store data temporarily. Now, variables have a few specific conditions for something to be a variable. It can use letters and numbers, but it should not begin with capital letters. It should not begin with a number, and it should not have any keywords that is mentioned in the file. Okay? So the best way to write variables is by using the camel method, which is initially you start by using simple letters, and the next word you start with a capital letter. So on and so forth. So in Java, we have something known as, this is how we define variables. We first start by saying the variable type, then we say the variable name, and then we can put a semicolon. This is one way of doing it. We can also do variable type, variable, and we can equate it to a value, and then semicolon. Or if you really want to save time, you can start with the variable type. I'm going to give an example here because I don't have enough space. Double is one of the many variables. Double allows you to have decimal numbers. Let's say A equals 5.5, comma B is equal to 6.7, 6, 7. Sorry, I'll walk myself out. And then there is C, which is 69. Semicolon. So now you have defined all these numbers, right? And that is one of the many ways you can do. So there's also things known as. So I'm going to explain a bit about the double and all that. So then you have integer, which is a very specific number. So if I make a as an integer, I can only have 5. 5.5 is not an integer. It will be cancelled out. Then I have something known as string. String is actually a bunch of characters. So a string is a bunch of characters. So I should use character, C-A-R, char. That allows me to, write a bunch of, characters in there. And then there is Boolean values, Boolean. So it's simply Boolean, which outputs true or false, right? And string does allow you to write sentences and stuff. Character char only allows you to put one specific character at the same time, at one time, right? So these are all the theory that we have learned these past 2 weeks. So, and then there is something which are called as assignment as operators, which we learned. Operators. Now there is things called arithmetic operator. There's things called logical operator. And there are things called relative operator or relational operator. So as you all know, arithmetic operators are, we usually go parentheses, multiplication, division. This is remainder, by the way. So if I put 9 divided by 5, remainder 5, well, you divide 9 by 5, but the answer will always be the remainder. So if I put 10 divided by 3, I'm going to get 1 as the answer. It is not divided by, it is remainder by. So remember that. And then you have addition and subtraction. Logical operators, you have not, which is exclamation mark. You have and, which is 2 ampersands. You have or, which is 2 of this. I believe that is the, I don't know which key that uses. Okay. For my computer, it is shift and the key above my enter. Right? That is the shift of the backslash key. Right? So relative operators are somehow, you can, the usual thing, you have x is equal to y. Now you don't put 1 equal, you put 2 equals. Okay? That is very important. X is not equal to y. Now relative operators are used to compare stuff. You maybe make it connected to a true false value, or you can do if, when, and all that stuff. So it's very useful there. X greater than y, x less than y, x greater than or equal to y, x less than or equal to y. All this stuff. And then finally, there is something called an increment. Oh, my bad. There's something called an increment decrement operator. So it is essentially a plus plus which adds a 1, a minus which subtracts a 1. Now if you put plus plus n is equal to k, where n is equal to 1, you see the plus plus comes before. So first of all, you add 1, then you take value. right? So plus plus 1 is going to be 2, k is going to be equal to 2, n is going to be equal to 2. Now if you put n plus plus is equal to k, you first of all take value. K is equal to 1 but n is equal to 2, right? So you first take value, then you add 1. Similarly, the same thing applies here. So if n is equal to 1, minus minus n is equal to k. So k is equal to 0, n is also equal to 0. But if you put n minus minus is equal to k, k will be equal to 1. Now n is going to be equal to 0. This is a very important thing that you should know. So there are so many ways to learn, and this is something that I learned while programming on Java. So when it comes to programming in Java, this is something I learned personally. This is not yet taught in lectures, so I may be wrong here. In pseudocode, we have something called prompt, right? So prompt, we ask the user something, the user types something, and whatever they type, we put under input as either A, B, or something. So instead of that, in Java, we have something. We had initially, before we do the public class void, we had to import Java util scanner. Now, I want you to be very clear that Java is a case-sensitive language. So this S is a capital S. Then, after you have done all your things, after you have put the public class, public static, under here, you have to define that scanner. So you have to go scanner. So usually we type scanner, but this is essentially a name for your scanner. New, and then you type in, let me check the S. Okay, it is a capital S, scanner. Let me just system in. So what this does is it defines your scanner. It creates a scanner function here. Okay. So now I can do the prompt. So I'm going to put system out print. I'm not going to put print line because obviously when you have a question here, your cursor should wait here, so it's much more beautiful. Let's say I'm asking, what is your name? Right? And I'm closing this. And I'm giving it a semicolon. There should be a semicolon up here. I'm too lazy to type it. So when you put system out print what is your name, now you can put what now since this is a string, you can define it string as name equals scanner dot next line semicolon this. What this does, it stores the name, and later on you can print it out. I would recommend you go check this out. There is this one guy called Brocode in YouTube. He explains this really nicely. Check Brocode's videos out. He explains this really nicely. But this is one very important thing that you should know. Also, there's one more thing. Whereas, let's say you have int a equal scanner dot next int, right? Now sometimes whenever you click enter, stuff happens, like it doesn't allow. So it's best if you put scanner dot next line next to it, so it'll cancel out the /n happening here. By the way, check out Brocode's video. He explains it really nicely, how to prompt in Java. Right? I will link his video in the description below. So these are all the things that we learned in labs they have taught us to use something known as Notepad++. So this is an example of how we can run it. And what you must do is, after you have saved the file, usually you go here, and what you can do is you can, so if you're going to save the .java file over here, you can run your command here. Then what you do is you have to use javac, and you type the name with the file type. I don't think that this is there, and then you run it. Afterwards you'll create a bytecode file, then you run it by the name only, and it'll run the file for you. Now this is one of my labs. So if after doing javac lab1 .java, it creates the class file. As you can see, it's already there, but it would usually create another class file. Then I can run it, and this file is to print out this line. So similarly, there's some other things that you can do. It's really nice. I'm really loving learning programming, and I will find you in the next week with my other IP lab. So until then, see you guys. Have a great day.